Hello and welcome back to How to Art. So today I'm going to show you another time-lapse video where I sort of draw things. Now the minute you'll notice I'm recycling, I've got no problem with recycling, and essentially what I'm doing is I found the figure, everything is pretty much the same as how I want it. The only difference is the arm is in a different position. So what I've done is I've actually taken a picture of my arm and I've basically copied that onto it, resized it and everything just so that it can fit nicely onto the figure, and then I can use that as sort of a template for drawing it. So right now I'm just sort of blending in the colours as I've sort of given it a harsh rub out, so I kind of want it to look like I've not done that when it's sort of fixed together. So I'm just working around that now, happy with the position of the arm. Obviously my physique's a bit different to the characters, so I've had to not follow it exclusively. You'll notice that I'm sort of overlapping. It's just a template, so I know where the positions are. Sort of drawing in the shirt and so on. And yeah, I've sort of keep it at low opacity, sort of rubbing the lines where I think it's going to be. With the hand as well, I sort of map it in how I the key parts, the abstraction, a nice black line in there. Sort of going for the creases now. Another thing that's quite important. I've got a palette there as well. I've only actually recently done that, where I've been struggling to find the right colours, because obviously once I've added my shading and highlights, it completely changes the whole colour. So I've very luckily managed to find the colour. I thought, well, I don't want to do this again, so I've found the colour for that, and I've found as well, I'm just going to sort of jump in between just to put things on the palette. So the colours I've got on there are for Javik's colour, who's my character. And you'll notice now I'm doing my typical shading and things of where the creases are with my burn tool, my favourite tool. Do that with the hands as well. I think the burn tool is really good because it really sort of focuses and sort of does a lot of the work for you for the shading, and it's really nice because it blends so nicely. I'm also referencing my arm as well, just to see where the light sort of hits, so it looks a little bit more realistic. Then I'm just going to use the blend tool, sort of mix all that together. Sometimes what I do is I find a colour in between the two, which I'll sort of add. So what we've got here is I've found a reference image off Google of some onlookers, just to sort of get that sort of shape of where everyone's looking. And I found this one, and what I quite like to do is sort of map in. If it's got multiple things on there, you can sort of reuse the image and just reposition it just to get the basic shapes. Now, as my comics sort of based in modern day, they are going to have phones, and what people do is they film things, they film everything they see, so I think that adds quite a nice little touch, sort of adding the ambiguity of what's going to happen in the next frame, which you will, when I release my comic, you'll be able to find out. Same again with the hands, I just sort of map that in. Adding the fingernails, you'll notice as well this is quite a blurry picture. It's quite pixelated, so it's quite a small image, and obviously I've blown it up quite big. So people think tracing is cheating. I completely disagree with that, because if it's so easy, why don't people just do it? And you can't find perfect images of what you want, and also getting that consistency. Saying the same thing would be photography's cheating then, but you know, I use tracing to sort of map in the basic shapes. It's quick, and I am going to do a video as to why there's nothing wrong with tracing whatsoever. You'll notice as well that I don't trace it sort of completely orthodox. I make a lot of stuff up in there as well. I sort of add things. In this example, I'm not tracing the entire image perfectly. I've changed this bit, for example, because that cloth wouldn't look particularly good. I've resized it. Then I'm going to sort of work on this gentleman here. Now you'll notice as well that he's got quite a long neck, and I will resize that, because without the sort of look from the camera, with tracing you have to stick to it exclusively, not make any changes, otherwise it will look weird, because a lot of times you'll find the pictures do look odd. So that's why I'm moving his head there, and I've sort of just moved the image down to sort of make his neck a bit smaller, because otherwise he'll look like a giraffe. I've sort of had to make up where his eyes will be. As I say, these are only background characters, and it doesn't look great right now, but I'm sort of doing this just so that I can have some background people there. Now I've moved the image as well, because again, there's several people on here that are quite nice references of onlookers, which I really like this image. and I can sort of use that to sort of add more to the panel, and sort of just shuffling them around means the JVIC can fit in quite nicely into the whole of the scene, so he doesn't look like he's been pasted in over the top. This one I struggled with quite a bit because I've done a lot of hands as well. I've had to sort of guess where a lot of the fingernails are, but I think it works together quite nicely. You'll notice as well I'm not completely copying everything that's on there, sort of just mapping where I think certain parts are. One of the things that makes comics very difficult is you have to use abstraction, because you can't just sort of, it would just take too long. So I'm using quite harsh lines here, which on their own look a bit weird. So his nose I struggled with a little bit because it wasn't symmetrical and it looked odd, so I actually had to do half his nose and then copy it over. And that's why it doesn't look exact, but once I take off the background you'll notice that it looks a lot more consistent. I'm happy with where I've put them as well now. As you can see, now they actually look a bit completely different to what the picture is. I mean, he looks fairly similar because he's fairly identical. So I'm using the pen tool to colour in. I went with this colour at first, sort of copying it over, and I found that I thought it was a bit too dark initially, especially with the highlights. And I also made a mistake here on his hand, where his hand goes two things and sort of separates. And you'll notice that I'll sort of select this in a second, once I've sort of done his hand. There we go. Yeah, so I've changed it to a different colour now, there, to make it look a bit more sort of. So I tried that colour, which I think was the best for this scenario, sort of a, what colour would that be classified as? Already a strawberry sort of colour, yes, or not strawberry blonde, strawberry bronze I think the term is. It's been a while since I've used paints. I like to, if I've followed the lines, there's a little trick you can do where if you paint underneath that layer, you won't need to, it saves you a little bit of time. So you'll notice that I didn't actually do his forehead. You'll see in a second with this gentleman here with the longish neck, is once I've finished that. But I think I'll start off with just the faces for now, just to get the skin tones. I find with pinks they're quite tricky, without making them look too red. Yeah, I found, as I say, I made a mistake, that's why I've lightened the colour for him. There's a nice olive colour. I don't like to keep all the people the same skin tone, just because it breaks it up a little bit more, just to sort of make it look a bit more sort of different. I do like my bright colours. You'll notice as well on this, this is suddenly sped up, and the reason that is because I accidentally set it, because I did some of this last night and I sort of carried on the second half of this video today, and I accidentally set the settings to ×10 instead of ×5, so that's why I've sort of gone a bit faster, but I think it works because there's only so much you can watch. You want to see a time lapse. One of the things with the pen tool is you need to be careful that the opacity is quite low if you change it temporarily. So it's always important to sort of change that afterwards. So carrying on now, got the skin tones, now I'm going to do the shirts. Now shirts are quite tricky because you don't want them to be too flamboyant, but equally you want them to be a bit more interesting. For lips, I tend to find what their skin tone is and just darken it by about 5 or 6 units. Glasses as well, I couldn't really bother to do his eyes. As I say, most people aren't even going to look for that long. So I find that just like a quite a light grey, and then you can add highlights, there's plenty. See, notice that I've just cut across and it hasn't come up. That's me using the trick of essentially using it to miss out things if it's on the layer beneath. So I had the colours and now I'm using my burn tool, and you'll see that although it doesn't look great, I've missed a few things as well, as you can tell I'm colouring in, but although it doesn't look great, just by adding in the burn and dodge, I like to think I've gotten a good hang of that now, and it really just completely transforms the entire image and makes it look so much better. As you can see, the gentleman with the long neck, his shirt and skin looks more realistic now that I've added the shading. And that's what a lot of it is really, it's just shading. I like to use a big brush as well, just sort of give that undertones. Have to be careful it doesn't make him look too sweaty though, but I kind of like that look on Javik. It kind of goes with his sort of personality as well. Now I'm using the dodge tool. Dodge does the opposite of burn, sort of lightens things. Now I'm using the shadows, so for that I use a soft brush, colour in the bits where I think they are and lower the opacity. I've added 2 more colours to my palette as well for the background because I was having to recycle the colours from previous slides. And there we go, so there's my finished image. This probably took me roughly an hour and a half, maybe, yeah, about an hour and a half. It serves its purpose. It's not my best work, but you know, it's about efficiency and they're only background characters. You can tell what it is. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Another thing as well, guys, put in the comments below if you prefer me to give you commentary or if you'd rather just have some background music and watch it as a more therapeutic thing. Really happy to cater for you guys. I mean, this is just an experiment. Thanks very much.